one more round because I saw one pop up. I'm not sure which one it was. So promote to panelists so you can accept and get access to any links or anything that we have in the chat. All right, guys, again, welcome. I am Brandi Smith with Perfect 10 Physical Therapy and Performance Training and Perfect 10 PT Academy, online courses for parents, coaches, and athletes. I'm super excited to have you guys here. For those of you that don't know me, I've already seen people say, hi, Doc Allie, you guys are already seeing Allie. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, I am a former collegiate gymnast on 2 national championship teams. And in my journey of gymnastics, I went through a very long 3-year battle. It wasn't a bout, it was a battle. It was a war with fear. And I also had some nutrition issues I went through, as well as many injuries, which led me to become a physical therapist. And through that experience, I became a physical therapist. I also began to work with recreational all the way up to Olympic level athletes. In particular, I specialize in gymnasts, though Doc Allie and I both work with all different athletes across the globe at various levels, from rec up to professional and Olympic level. And all of that has led me to pursue a lot of education, a lot of initials after my name, in order to help as many people as I can. And so ultimately my goal is to light as many lights in this world. And my 2 avenues are through Perfect 10 PT and Perfect 10 PT Academy, and these amazing free webinars and amazing colleagues that I have that are also friends. I'm so excited to invite Doc Allison Arnold here today. She is a clinical psychologist. Did I say it correctly? The correct certifications, Allie? Just making sure I said it correctly.
Thank you. I have a PhD in clinical psychology.
So she has a PhD in clinical psychology, and she's a mental toughness coach. She's worked with athletes from recreational all the way up to Olympic level athletes since 2000 or 96.
Gosh.
I think it's 96, but could be wrong.
Well, no. In terms of in terms of members of our Olympic team, I would say 2000. But I've been doing this work since 1991. So, yeah, long time.
Yeah, a long time. And she's worked with amazing athletes, including myself, and helped me get past my own fear when I was an athlete.
No, I'm not that old. I'm not that old.
You just said 1991.
Oh, shoot. That was when I was like 3.
Yeah. She was 3 and I was also 7. I'm coming up on my 20 years in my profession, by the way. I can't believe it. It's crazy. Like in May, this coming year, will be 20 years in my profession. But I have to say, I think you could probably say the same thing. God's been preparing me this whole time for this stuff. So, so we're here.
Yes.
So I'm super excited to have Allie today. And today we are here to talk about the competition jitters. We're here to talk about, what did we finally landed on? We landed on, what if I'm not ready? What if I'm not ready? And helping you guys calm all those competition season nerves. So without further ado, I want to introduce Doc Allie. Maybe if there's anything I left off, you can say hi to everyone and give us a little more about you.
No, I think that's perfect. Hello, everyone. So good to see you. What I wanted to talk about today is this whole actually pre-season anxiety. I think we can definitely talk about how to deal with competition nerves. But as Brandi said, when she was talking about what do you want to talk about today, what I've been seeing tons of is nerves now. Like, what if I'm not ready? I'm not going to be ready. Season's coming. It's 5 weeks. And then some of the things you might be seeing in the gym or with your athletes or with your children that are manifestations of that. Because when they start to get anxious, sometimes there's fear. Sometimes there's almost like a little bit of self-sabotage. You might see some injuries that start to happen. You might see kids. I just saw an athlete this morning that was doing amazing. And the minute pressure increased, her brain and her mental blocks increased. So what I want to talk about now is how to deal with that. How to deal with kids that are starting to freak out, and how to deal with also, and I would love to talk about this openly and to keep an open dialogue going in the chat or of what you're seeing in the gym or what you're seeing with your kids. Because I think what happens is um, coaches start to get a little bit wiggy. That'll be my psychological technical term. Coaches tend to get a little bit wiggy, and then athletes tend to match that energy. And then you start to have like coaches that are upset or increasing the pressure, and then athletes that are responding with, again, more fear, more inconsistency. And so I'd love to start out with what you're seeing in your gym. If you guys want to brainstorm in the chat, what
Yeah.
are you seeing in your homes or in the gym during this time of year when you're in preseason, but you're gearing up for season? Can we just like almost give it like a 1 minute timer and do like a 1 minute dump?
Yeah.
Let your fingers do the walking. What are you seeing in the gym? Ready? Or at home?
And
Ready? Go.
go. One of the things I was going to tell you, Allie, that I've also seen just in the whole innate sense of getting ready for preseason is in the family structure, they're also having to get hotels booked, getting cars booked, getting airplanes booked, paying money, spending money right around the holiday season for extra stuff. So there's kind of an
Mm-hmm.
added financial sense that's also happening, that adds kind of to the whole, storm slash chaos of what's happening. So I'll read
Mm-hmm.
out what I see. What I see so far is this is year 4 of competing, and she's a veteran at this point. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that athlete comes from one that's done several mindset stuff, by the way, and working on a lot of that. Let's see. Fear and mental blocks. I'm seeing new fears and balking on skills that they have been able to do for a while. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
During pressure
Mm-hmm.
assignments, they go, hold on, it's moving. During pressure assignments, they go slower. Hold on. During pressure assignments, they go slower on beam and make mistakes, wobbles, beam especially. If
Mm-hmm.
one athlete isn't ready, it is trickling to others not being ready and not feeling ready. Random injuries. Yes, this is the time for that. And we can talk a little bit
Mm-hmm.
why that also happens. We
Mm-hmm.
have some who were also who are so scared that they won't go get a skill, that they won't even put the work in. So they're so afraid they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get the skill in time, then they just don't do it at all. Like, why even try?
Yeah.
They're throwing up their
Well,
hands. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like all of that can be really common with a lot of athletes right now. And I do want to talk a little bit about the why. Like, why does this happen to a lot of these athletes? And I think part of the why is just coming from pressure that they feel, pressure that they're putting on themselves at this time of the preseason. Pressure to perform their best this season, pressure to see their hard work pay off. They might be feeling pressure from parents, pressure from coaches. The pressure is just increasing. And that's true in a lot of areas of their lives. Because also, you're looking at going into the holidays where there's a lot of school pressure right before vacation. So a lot of these kids are like type A perfectionists with a lot of pressure and putting a lot of pressure on themselves. I also have seen, and I don't know if you're seeing this with any of your kids, but kids that were super successful last season now put a lot of pressure on themselves and have a lot of fear about, oh, now I've moved up a level. Am I going to suck or am I not going to do well at this level? So when you have these high pressure kids, you're going to see more of this type of behavior. So you definitely want to look out for that. There's also a fear of the unknown. A lot of kids or a lot of athletes are doing new skills, new routines. And so they're not doing something that they know like the back of their hand, like they will feel hopefully closer to the end of season, closer to state, to regionals or nationals. So there is some fear of the unknown, like how is this routine going to play out? I'm also seeing a lot of comparison right now, and I think that's super common in our very externally oriented world. We live in a society where people are, and that definitely our athletes at their age, are always looking outside of themselves to kind of judge themselves. it's really hard for these kids to turn inward and say, like, you know what, I'm just comparing myself to me, because they're inundated through social media, through just in their sport, you know, these comparisons. What's he doing? What's she doing? What are they doing? And again, they're seeing on Instagram all these like highlight reels, and they're thinking, oh, what am I, chopped liver? You know, I'm not getting my skills. So I think all of these things, from the pressure to self-critic to comparison to fear of the unknown, really come with leading to a lot of anxiety for a lot of these athletes. So you might be seeing that in the gym. I'm kind of looking at the chat. You know, Sean was writing, I just saw something on social media. If you're nervous, it means you're not prepared enough. If you're not nervous, it means that you're ready. You know, yeah, I think, and you wrote that you agree and disagree with this. I agree that preparation is key to not feeling nervous in competition. I do feel like it's so key. But I also feel like even athletes that are so prepared, when there's too much pressure and too much focus on outcome, like scores and places and awards and qualifying, and also pleasing parents, pleasing coaches, having these external rewards, when there's so much focus on that, even the most prepared athlete can be a little bit too nervous. And so I think the key is, and what I want to talk at today is giving you 4 tools on how to deal with an athlete that is having the I'm not going to be ready's anxiety. So I'm going to dive into those. Oh, and I love what Patricia just wrote, that
Yeah.
even Simone admits she's nervous for me. Yes, I think it is normal. It's normal because you work so hard. You know, you work so hard and it's all on the line. And so I think nervous is normal. And that's what I say a lot. I say nervous is normal. And it is normal to be nervous. It's how you regulate that to still be able to control your neurotransmitters or control your adrenaline so that you can still perform your best.
I always,
Anything?
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's what I always, I talk a lot about the lion and how when there's a lion in the room. And so the lion being all of these things you just listed, right? The preseason jitters, all this preseason talk, mental talk, physical talk, all these things that are happening. And when that happens, we know there's that huge rush of adrenaline and cortisol. And so it is this ability, and it is normal. It's natural, right? Like I even told my daughter, like recently, I was like, every time I present or I go to do one of these things, I have a moment where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be okay, right? Like, so there's a moment where, and
Mhm.
that's normal. It helps me, in tune. Am I prepared? Did I set up? Do I know my stuff? Right? Like, whatever it is, it's a good check-in. But learning how to titrate that, like one of the athletes I worked with this last year going into trials, that was actually his goal. His goal was learning how to stay steady throughout a meet instead of tapping so hard into the adrenaline, having to recover, tapping into it again to perform. His goal was totally just to try to maintain a steady state of kind of where is that like happy place where he's in his happy zone, happy juices are flowing, but he's not overkilling it in one way or the other and having to do this big swing. And it is that big swing. And like it is resilience to come back. I actually worked with an athlete yesterday that just totally crumbled. Her response to the pressure was literal physical crumble and then emotional crumble, complete shutdown, right? And so we sat and went through some, I think similar some of these techniques you're going to go through, but we went through, some specific breathing techniques, some specific ways of addressing the monkeys that we're talking to her. What were they saying? How do we get rid of them? And then we made a visualization of she liked to swim, so we let them go down the drain of the pool. But
Nice.
yeah. So, but we spent some time addressing because she really wanted to just ignore them and shut down and do nothing else. And I was like, I said, Mom, and so Mom was like, I think we're done. And I was like, actually, this is the best part. Let's actually see if we can build some resilience. She goes, no, 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 you don't understand. When she shuts down for good for a long time. And I said, well, let's build a shorter period of return, right? And so that's what we did. Her mom was shocked. She went back and did a back walkover after, resetting. And I said, how many you have in you? And she's like, two. And I was like, that's fine. I'm just happy you have resilience. And her mom was shocked too, because this would be a kid who literally would shut down for the rest of practice after having,
Mm.
basically, it was meeting an obstacle that she deemed overwhelming or that she deemed to be too hard. And it wasn't really on the physical plane. If you're a coach, it wasn't a hard ask. Like, you're asking her to do a back walkover, and in reality, she does bridges, she does bridge kickovers, she does back walkovers regularly. Now all we asked was for her to straighten her legs, right? And so
Mm.
now it was like a whole, and because it wasn't perfect that first time, her nervous system response was to shut down. And so I don't know, I see a lot of that right now in preseason. It's that pressure, either they're shutting down or they're overdoing, but
Mm.
all back to these neurochemicals. And so I'm excited, Doc Allie,
Mm.
to hear what we have today on the 4 tools to help us neural regulate. What is it you say? Be the conductor of your neurochemicals. If I ever say that, it's because Doc
Yes.
Allie says it.
Yes. 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 Well, just to piggyback on what you just said, it is so much about being the conductor of your neurochemicals and not just being a prisoner to whatever's happening in your brain and body. And again, what I want to talk about today is those kids that are having like an anxiety response now to what if I'm not ready? And so the first tool I want to give you is, and I'm going to write it in the chat, small steps slash big results. So when you have an athlete that is freaking out about the upcoming season, and if you are seeing some of those anxiety responses that we talked about a second ago, like fear, balking, shutting down, being wobbly, I think sometimes those athletes feel out of control. And when athletes, especially, feel out of control, I think that brings up anxiety. So, to get them back into control, I like them to focus on micro wins or small steps. Sorry, that should be plural. Small steps, big results. Small steps as they're moving towards season. Because those micro wins or small steps feel in their control. So if you have a kid that's super anxious, or maybe with all of your team, you have them write down the 4 events or 6 events if they're a guy, if they're a gymnast. And then you're going to have them write down, what are some small steps that you need to do over the next 6 weeks? And let's say there's 6 weeks till the meet. Let's just even pick one a week that you're going to do to help you feel more ready for the competition. So again, it might be just get my head in on my giants, put my dismount onto the real bars. You're really talking about micro wins. Now, sometimes I have a habit chart that I'm going to show you. I might have to have Brandi make me a co-host to share it. But I have a habit chart to help my athletes like change habits. And I just want to share it with you really quick. So this is like a weekly new habit change chart. Like, let's say I have an athlete that has a habit of, again, throwing their head out on a skill. I might have them write down 6 desired habits, and these are habits on all the events, whatever they'd like to change. They don't have to do all 6, they can just do 4. And then I have them every day that they're in gym check off if they feel like they worked on that habit. And the goal is to just have a daily total of having at least 4 out of 6. So I don't like them to set themselves up for failure. And I can again share this chart in the chat. I don't like them to set themselves up for failure by having to like change all 6 of them. Like, I fixed my series position, I fixed my head, but at least having to work on 4 out of 6 every practice and really feel like you're moving in the right direction. So I'll have them do one of these a week where they're just really focusing on a micro win, just a micro win that can lead to that big result. And again, a micro win might be not overturning a full turn. A micro win might be tighter off the table, really focusing on what's in their control. So I think that that's so important. And like Patricia said, it measures incremental changes so that, again, we're not so focused on the big picture outcome, but they're able to really see that they're making these changes all during the week. And I think that that's so important to focus on the controllables, what's in your control. Because when you're stressed out about not feeling ready, really the antidote to that is preparation, is micro wins and seeing that you are moving in the right direction. Did you want to say that, Brandi, while I put this in the chat? Oh,
Sure.
you know
Yeah,
what? I'm not able to do that, to put it in the chat. So it might be
I can
that we
email it
send it to
out.
you after.
Yeah, I just text you actually. So yeah, as long as it's
Okay,
okay with Doc Ally, we'll send that in the follow-up email. We'll send the chart in a PDF for you guys. Yeah,
perfect.
I was responding to someone who was talking about, that maybe it would work to emphasize, instead of take the emphasis off of outcomes and instead focus on the journey and the process. And I said, 100%, there's a lot of research that shows that switching our focus on, to improve our overall, switching our focus to the process and enjoying the process and the journey, it improves our overall performance and it will improve consistency of that performance, like longevity.
Mm-hmm.
This chart that Ali was just presenting is a great way to shift your focus very literally on the present and on the journey, right? Because this is the process. These little steps are the process. And so it really is a great way to get that kind of honed in. I love it. I love the chart, Ali.
Yeah, excellent. You know what? And I do want to say one more thing about the chart, which is totally unrelated to what we're talking about. I use this chart for me. So what I do so it takes like, let's say 30 days to change a habit. So I make 4 of these. And let's say my habit is run, or exercise, don't eat sugar, um, 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, whatever my habits are. And then again, I only hold myself to, it says right here, you only have to do 4 out of the 6 a day. So I don't like set myself up to beat myself up. So I'm not going to run every single day anyway, because I'm going to take some, recovery days. So this is an awesome chart for you, my friends, if you want to change some bad habits. Okay.
I love that you say that because of that concept that 4 out of 6, right? So it's like one day I might get these 4 in, and the next day I might get these 4 in. And so there's this like kind of self-compassion built in.
Yes. Yes. That is what it's for. It is for self-compassion built in. So you're not like, oh, I suck. I didn't do all 6.
I mean,
Exactly.
let's be real. Most of the parents on here and coaches at some point were likely, maybe not all, but probably a large percentage were likely some athlete of some sort and maybe an
Yes.
athlete in their sport. And so we can all use this. I love it. It might even be
Yes.
like taking less Instagram time or like, taking the time to,
Yes.
I'm gonna at least cook, I'm gonna try to cook more fresh meals, or I'm not gonna,
Yes.
figure out, I'm gonna leave 5 minutes early. I think that's a good one. Time management
Yes.
stuff, right?
Yes.
You know that
All
one coming
those
from me.
are excellent.
Yeah,
Sean
so
just said one motivator for the rest of us that you do that for yourself. I do, because we all get in these bad habits, like I'm on a sugar thing since flipping Halloween. And I am rating my kids. I put a post on my Facebook or my Instagram. I am rating my kids' sugar, my kids' candy bucket. Totally. I had like 2 pieces yesterday. I need to get out of the candy bucket. All right.
my thing, Ali, for me is back into my normal meditation routine. So I've got 2 things. One, I do developmental movement stuff for myself as a reset every morning. And I usually meditate every morning. And I had a few weeks where just like life happened, we got sick, whatever, and I fell off of it. So I actually just picked two things. I'm like, that's all I'm going to work on is just, and if I don't get it in the morning, I'm not going to like let it fall aside, because that's always the key to me is not like berate myself. Now I'm like, okay, it's all right if I lay down for just 5 minutes in between people or do this thing. So yeah, we're all trying to grow and develop, right, Allie? It's the only way.
Yes. We're all trying to make it work on the loony balloon, I say. We're all trying to make it work on the loony balloon.
Looney Bin.
So, all right, we are going to talk about enjoy the process, but that's my number 4. So I'm
I'm
saving
sorry.
that to last. All right. All right. But I want to talk about number 2. Number 2, so the first one I'm talking about is small steps, big results, and really help these athletes focus on micro wins, help them set small goals, help them keep track of those small goals so they have an awareness that they're moving forward. Because again, I think so many of these athletes that are putting a lot of pressure on themselves right now, preseason, are feeling out of control. The next thing is, if they're saying, I'm not going to be ready, I'm scared I'm not going to be ready, and maybe they're not saying it. If you're a parent, you're probably hearing it. If you're a coach, you might not be hearing that as much, but you might see it in their behavior that they seem a little more anxious. I think it's important for them to create a new mantra. So I'm going to use that Sanskrit word. So Sanskrit, the word mantra is a Sanskrit word meaning protector of the mind. And I love that because I think our minds are crazy, right? And they're always running around. Brandi just talked about the monkey mind, and I always talk about the monkey mind. And they're always running around taking us on field trips. And I think, again, for these kids, they have a lot of monkey mind field trips going on. Whether it's, I'm not going to be ready. What if I don't go the level I want to go? What if my coaches don't think I can go this level? How come she can do this? How come he can do this and I can't do this? So there's so much going on with out of control thinking. And so I think it's important that these athletes have some mantras that can help them feel grounded. Things like every day I am moving towards my goal. Just even thinking that I'm moving in the right direction, or thinking, what can I do today that'll move me a little bit closer to season? Having these statements that you want them to say to themselves. And I think if you're a coach and you do a lineup in your gym, and I am a big proponent of lineups. Like I'm not saying like stand there like a soldier or like, but I really like starting your workout with them all lining up. And I feel like it is a nice bookend, either at the beginning or at the end of your workout, or both. I love both. But when you're in that lineup, if you do say, all right, we have our first inner squad on December 15th, which I think is very reasonable to say. Some people like, don't say that, don't say it. But I think you should say that. Like we have our next inner squad or first inner squad in 5 weeks. And then to give them that statement, what I want you to be asking yourself is, how can I move a baby step forward today? And then at your closing lineup, if you're able to do a closing lineup, you say, can everyone go down and just like look at what's one thing or one way they moved themselves closer to season today? And so again, you're helping them create self-talk like, I'm getting there. I'm getting stronger. I got a little bit stronger today. Because you have so many athletes worrying about endurance, or they're worrying about, again, being able to complete these routines. So I think giving them statements or saying statements to them as a coach, as a parent, if you're not giving them the statements, you want to be speaking the statements. And the goal is that your voice becomes their voice inside their head. It's called an introject in therapy. So if you're a therapist, you learn about this, that you want to be an introject to your client. So your client internalizes your voice inside their head. Well, I think it's the same with a coach. You want to be that positive introject that says, every day we're moving, we're getting stronger. I know you guys will be ready. Even if you're not totally 100% by that first meet, that's okay. Again, you're stating what you want to create. Yes, positive self-talk. I love that too. What Brand just said, that they close every practice with I got better today, with I got better today, by. That's great because you're putting number one, you know, small steps lead to big results, and number two, that they're actually saying, I got better today. Any other ideas for statements that you would want to say as a parent? I mean, I think this would be a great brainstorm as well, just to give us all the language. So I'm going to brainstorm some too. What are some statements that as a parent or as a coach you want to say to your athletes that become interjects inside their head? Great. So let's just again flood out the chat with that. Yep. Just keep going. And maybe Brandy, you can read those or I can read them.
Yeah,
Um,
so we've got you are strong, you are confident, I got this. Every day you are moving closer to being ready. I know you'll
mhm,
be okay. I can,
mhm,
I will, I am. Trust yourself. You're safe. Trust yourself. Trust the equipment. Trust your coaches. Next to that, by the way, I would add is trust the process. That's something I learned kind of in college, which was late. Another person wrote, we do acrobatics and tumbling as well as women's artistic gymnastics in their gym.
mhm,
And her adult daughter was working with a young girl who dearly wants to be a top, like a tops kid. Are you saying a tops kid?
mhm,
Oh no, she wants to be a top for
mhm,
acrobatics,
mhm, mhm,
but she gets scared. But every time Hannah helps her get up there, she says, you are brave. I love
mhm.
you are
That's so
brave.
good.
If you're not
And
ready by the first meet, that's okay. I think that's
yeah,
served well.
I think a lot of these athletes feel like, I need to be state ready. I need to be regionals ready by the first meet. And I think really telling them things like mistakes are okay. That's what they are, what help us grow. Like mistakes are okay. They're making you better. And I think saying these things are going to help these pressure kids feel more freedom, feel more self compassion. You want to be that voice of self compassion for them.
Karen has in there, I'm prepared, I am brave, I am courageous, I am ready. And then you added mistakes are okay. They help us grow. I
Mm-hmm.
love to pose the question to an athlete who's super high pressure, like athlete, they pressure themselves. I like to ask them, what if our goal was not to like win everything? What if you and be perfect at everything every single turn? What if you just went in to this experiencing, learning, and growing today? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if, what could you learn today? What could you experience in the fall? And how could you grow from that? And I think part of that process is also teaching them the process that, look, actually, I don't want you to peak at the first meet. Matter of fact, if you peak at the first meet, science says it's not probably going to stay. And then you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
make it to nationals or state and peak. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, my goal as a performance coach or as a coach, right, is to actually build you through the season. So I actually don't want you to be perfect the first meet. I want you to experience and learn a bunch of things the first several meets. And then you've
Mm-hmm.
really kind of gathered this tool belt and some confidence and you handle adversity that happens, like all the things that happen that are unknown and unexpected. You're able to grow into that through season. So I look at season as a
Mm-hmm.
period to grow and experience and learn. And so that's one thing I try to ask them, like, so sometimes they'll say, I'm learning today. I'm experiencing,
Uh-huh.
I'm growing. But I have to kind of
Yeah.
preface that because it's so foreign of an idea that if I don't give them
Mm-hmm.
the preface, they don't really know what that means to say I'm experiencing and growing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really important. And with what you said, and then I want to read what Rebecca wrote. But what I really liked, and I think if coaches could give this message right now as we're moving into the first meet of the season, our goal is to be confident, not perfect. And I'm just piggybacking on what Brandy just said and putting it into a statement. I think when you have kids that you see that they're putting too much pressure on themselves, that is the message you want to give them, that your goal is to be confident. Your goal is to go all out. Your goal is to go big, not perfect. And I think if you say things like that and you keep saying things like that, you're going to see these kids take a huge sigh of relief. And that becomes their mantra. My goal is to be confident, not perfect. And what a great mantra that is for everything and for life. And ultimately, this is all about life, right? So that's great.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I was going to say, ultimately, if you don't know, the vehicle of sports is this vehicle, like, vehicle for us to actually experience, learn, and grow and become amazing humans, be able to contribute to society, be able to handle the adversity of life. And sports is such a safe place to do this. So what I always love about everything you teach, Allie, is that it's it's that these are tools for life. And that's why you kind of said, well, this is something I do for myself. It's because this type of mindset, this type of thinking, it doesn't stop when you decide to retire from a sport. It actually feeds you, and it's the seeds. So getting younger guys, like 7-year-olds and 5-year-olds, like, start having little conversations at their developmental age level, right? You're planting these seeds, and each year as they come through your program, you're fertilizing these amazing humans that are going to learn how to take on hard things and how to not be perfect all the time, but be able to do and be able to, contribute to whatever it is that their heart desires, whatever it is that fuels their fire. And sometimes it's things
mhm,
that we don't want to do, but we still have to do them.
mhm, mhm.
Anyway, go ahead and
Just
read me
comments from Rebecca and Karen. Rebecca said that part of what they're working on is parents' expectations, and they're having a mock meet or an inner squad where parents can come. And she's already emailed them that the goal isn't perfection; the goal is to learn and to see what we need to work on. And I think that is so important. And managing parent expectations is so important. And that is all about what she's doing. It's all about communication, and it's all about really educating them on the process and emailing them as much as possible on things like this. Like, this is just an information meet, or even as they go into their first meet, you're like, we're really focusing on confidence in this meet and not perfection. Like, you continue to kind of send out emails before every meet to kind of remind parents and manage their expectations. I think that's so great. Karen
as
was
part of
talking
that,
about,
as
go
part
on.
of that, before you move on past parents, part of that though is also this communication about the mantras, helping the parents
Yeah.
get educated on what mantras, because in reality, and this is the thing I really love, is that if we can put that whole all the pieces of the triangle together, the coach, the athlete, the parent, everyone's on the same page. That's the reason we do the programs I do the way we do them, is because then they can all be supporting. When there's one weak link that's kind of accidentally saying language that's, and it's not intention ever really, most of the time, it's just being able to support each other with that same language, that same mantra, and kind of find out, like, what is your kid's mantra? What is it they need? Are they needing to feel confident? Do they need to feel strong? Do they need to feel safe? Do they need to feel that no matter what happens this first meet, or even the first next 10 meets, you're going to love them and not take away something, because they have all these different hormones that rush their body and they think things. Um, so having that clear dialogue and clear mantra, I think for everyone, that, like, it's all communication, it's all education. It just helps really support and solidify that foundation for the athlete.
And I'm thinking while you're saying that, I think sometimes we just don't have the language and we have such bad habits. Like, I even find this with Max. I'll say something that's totally, I'm like, oh my God, I was a bad sports parent right there. With my son, he's 12 and he plays tennis. And I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. So I think, and maybe this is something I put together for our group today and send it to Brandi, and also come out, that can come out with the parent, with the habit list. And I have something else to send out to you too, that it's almost like you need to send out an email that has exact statements to parents, things to say. I'm going to make a post on this, so be on the lookout if you're not friends with me on Facebook or Instagram. Things to say to your athlete before a competition.
You read my
And
mind. That's where I was leading you.
yeah, we need the
Yeah.
language. We need the language. And it takes practice sometimes, because we have our own habits, or we have our own things that our parents said to us that maybe weren't that great. And I think we can do that for coaches too. And some of them are going to be very similar.
Yeah.
But things to say to athletes to help them be in a container at the competition where they can compete free and they're not competing too tight.
Yeah,
You know,
helping keep the alarm system down, help the athlete stay in a safe place, right? Through our language.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I'm with you too, as well, Allie, as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I hear myself go, my mom used to say that. That's not what I wanted to say. So then I have to go
Yeah.
back and go, I'm sorry, that was really horrible. And my daughter
Yeah.
at this point sometimes goes, yes, it was.
Ah,
Well,
yes.
Allie, you could see that.
Yes. So Karen was
Um,
saying about focusing on going into the meet and focusing on technical, small technical skills like the finishing position of a skill or your hands. I think that is so great that and I use this tons with fear, just to take a little detour, when the mind is kind of on the big picture, like I'm afraid of this skill or what if I'm not ready. I think that is, again, when the mind can focus on the body, you can anchor the mind in the body and it really helps. So when you say, or maybe you have your athletes write down like a small micro technical position that they're really going to focus on each event. And then that's really where they anchor their mind. Like, I'm just focusing on squeezing my butt on my beam landings, and the whole meet is focusing on squeeze. That's one controllable, right? So we're going back to the first one, small steps, big results. Then you're also anchoring the mind on something like, squeeze, and they're less like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't fall, hope I don't hit. You're really focusing on the micro correction there, and they're focused in the body. All right. So moving on to number three. Number three, I think now is a great time to create what I call a confidence jar. And right now, because sometimes our athletes don't recognize that they really are doing pretty well. So, what a confidence jar is a jar that they actually have either at home or in the gym. You can, if you have a space, everyone can have a little confidence jar in the gym. And then you have a big bucket of beads. Beads like beads with you make that you make a bracelet or a necklace or a grip bag or whatever, a grip bag tag. And every time they have a hit, it could be a hit routine, it could be a hit skill, they put a bead in their jar. And I like to do this through the whole season. And by the time we get to postseason, they have a huge confidence, again, bracelet that's wrapping or a necklace. And many times I'll use the word jar, JAR, to symbolize just another routine. So if you do their jar with hit routines, and once they're starting to do routines, and even now, let's say now they're just getting ready, but let's say now they hit 2 out of 8 routines or 2 out of 5 routines. They have 2 beads for their jar, and they can see that they've earned that. And then I use that phrase all the time, just another routine, JAR, just another routine. So again, I think if you're a parent, it's a great time to start a confidence jar. And if you want to do this for the gym, I have definitely worked with gyms where there's a shelf and everyone has their jar, and you're able to put a bead in their jar, and then they can look, and when they get closer to season or when they get closer to this inner squad, you can say, you know what, you have, and even if they just have 10, let's say they have 10, they don't have 50, they just have 10. You're like, you have 10 hits in that jar, and that's a great way to start the season. So what it's doing is just creating confidence and helping them recognize successes when they're in a state of fear. Because many times when we're in a state of fear, all we see is the negative. All we see is the failure. All we see is the falls. And all we remember are the falls. So this helps you remember your successes to create a confidence jar.
I love the confidence jar. I love also the very Pavlovian, like you keep saying jar, 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 just another routine, just another routine. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
very autopilot for them, which is so great when the alarm system gets triggered or heightened. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
That is one of my favorite phrases, just another routine. And
Mhm.
if you have a confidence jar, it really helps to reinforce that. And it's super fun. And it's super fun to see what they've created by the end of season. Usually they have like huge confidence bracelets that everyone can wear to state. Or sometimes, again, you can create something and they just have like a grip bag tag that's just like lined with hits. So it really can be a great thing for your gym. All right. And the home stretch is what we talked about earlier. When you have these kids that are so scared right now because season is creeping up on them, you want to help them enjoy the journey. And the best ways that I think to enjoy the journey is something we've talked about earlier, which is acknowledging small successes. And the second thing that I think of when I think of enjoying the journey is gratitude. And when you can shift your mind to gratitude, um, I think it totally takes your neurotransmitters into a different realm. So many times with athletes that are coming into practice, I'll have them do something called 5G. And I'm going to write this in the chat. The first G is for get grounded. And what I mean by get grounded is you just do 2 deep breaths to let go of wherever you've come from, like school, fights with parents, wherever it is, and just 2 breaths to be here now. Then number 2 is I do get grateful. And I just have my athletes do 2 breaths where they think of 2 things that they're grateful for. And again, we're shifting the mind. Step 3 of the 5G is I do get giving. And what I mean by that is after you get grateful, you like give your gratitude away, like to 2 people that you think could use some uplifting today. So I might have them do 2 breaths where they're just kind of giving their good feelings away to 2 athletes on their team that they feel like they need to, that they could give some love to. Number 4, I do 2 breaths of get goals. And get goals is when they take 2 breaths and they just set intention for the practice. Like, all right, I want to get this done. I want to get this done. I want to focus on landings, whatever it is. So I'll just have them do two goals to do that. And then 5 of 5G is what I call get going. And what I mean by get going is I motivate those 4Gs by like get moving. Sometimes I'll start a run after that and just have them just start moving their body. Sometimes I'll have them do like 5 jumps, just something that kind of activates the body. So many times, a lot of my athletes will do this like before they start practice. So it's like, I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm grateful to be here. I'm going to give some support and leadership to my team today. I'm focusing on landings and being aggressive. And now I'm starting my warm up. So I feel like if you do the 5G process, which I'll definitely send you a write up, it really helps people get out of outcome and just into enjoying being grateful and focusing on the process. And that's so important for these kids that are, again, feeling really anxious about the upcoming season. And I like to do this myself as well.
But Allie, this is awesome. This is all great, quick tips that we can very much apply and start doing today. Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to add? We're going to wrap up in the next like 8 minutes or so. So anyone have some questions for Doc Allie while she's here or things that you'd like to add? I know that all of these things work. I've been using some of Allie's stuff for a long while. There's a few people here in the chat that also know that. Um,
Yeah. Well, before
Yeah.
I answer this question too about where to find me on social media, which I totally appreciate, but um, I want to say that this talk, and Brandy and I can do a different one. This talk is definitely about pre-season because in terms of controlling anxiety at a competition
That's
and
different.
controlling competition nerves, that is a different topic.
Yeah.
All right. There is so many different tools. There are so many different tools to handling competition nerves, how to train your athletes to handle competition nerves. This is more about what's happening in the now, which is you're seeing kids starting to feel overwhelmed. So I really want to make sure that you guys are super clear. Some of these tools can help with competition nerves, but again, that's kind of a different animal.
Do you want to, so in the chat we had, so I put that you can find Doc Alley at Head Games. That's her handle on Instagram. And those of you that haven't followed me, I'm at Perfect 10 PT, but Doc Alley is at Head Games on Instagram. And where else you're on TikTok and also Facebook. What are you on TikTok? Are you
Here,
at
here's
Head?
my Facebook. I am like barely on TikTok these days, but
Oh, are you? Okay,
um,
good.
here's my Facebook. And then, yeah, Instagram is Head Games. Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see, on also your website. Your website is because you have she has different boot camps, preseason, middle season.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So, right now, we are getting ready for Countdown to Competition Camp. And what that is we're doing 5 weeks online for athletes on Countdown to Competition. And that camp starts December 1st. And athletes can watch it live. And these are going to be 5 really important tools to get your mindset ready for competition. Athletes can watch it live, or athletes can, again, watch the recorded session whenever. And if you would be willing to send an email out to your entire parent list about that, I would love it. And I would even give you like a free little prize for that, which I won't tell you what it is yet. But you can email me and say that you're willing to do that at docalley@headgamesworld.com. And then I also do 5 session packages with just your individual gym. If you want me to just work with your kids, I do that. It's super reasonable, I think, for a gym, especially if there's, even over 20 kids. So I can also work with your gym individually. And of course, I do individual sessions and stuff like that as well. So let me know. I would love to, again, work with your kids. I'd love to work with your athletes and bring them into our Head Games family.
And in part of that, for those of you listening to the recording or on YouTube, it's headgamesworld.com is her website, headgamesworld.com, and email is DOC Ali, ALI at headgamesworld.com. We have on here, Michael says he loves and uses your cards, which I do. I love your cards too.
Oh, I
Allie's
love these
card
cards
deck.
too. So I have this awesome card deck that I
Yeah.
love.
Can you
It's
pick a
called the type.
card before we close out?
Yeah.
Let's pick a card. So I have
Yeah.
the
Would you guys like a
so
card?
it's called the Type Mind Tool Deck. I didn't even have to see it. I use mine sometimes
All
for
right. All right.
myself, sometimes others. All right, so yeah, pick us a card. Let's see what
All
Brandi
right. So this is
has
going to
on
be our card of the day on post-election day. So I am Brandy. I'll just have you just tell me when to stop.
there.
The card of the day is
Positive.
positive. And then so it has a word of the day, and then it has a mental toughness tip. The tip is look at everything that happens today as something that is making you a better athlete and coach and parent. See the opportunity in all adversity. The
Ooh,
cards never lie.
they
See,
never lie.
this is all, yeah, yeah, stuff we needed to
This was needed
hear.
today. I'm sure there's
Yes, for
someone here.
sure.
Comment in the chat if you needed to hear that today. Just put a yes, big Y.
I always
Put a
need
big
to
Y.
hear that.
Me too, me too.
I need to hear that every day.
So we've got so much good stuff. Going to make some cards for the kids to keep in their bags about confident, not perfect. Yeah, that's the goal. I love it. That's great, Brianne. And then Rebecca said, and also she was wanting to know the correct title so we can attribute a quote to her that we're borrowing. When you mean your correct title, what do you mean?
My correct title? I would say Doc Alley, or is it me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say Doc Alley, mental toughness coach.
yeah,
Yeah, head games.
yeah. You typing it
Yeah,
in.
you don't need to write
Allie's
all that, but
Allie's gonna put it all how she wants to be referred to. She'll put it in the chat real quick.
yeah, you could say peak performance coach, mental toughness coach.
Yeah. Um, and Madhu has that she would love to have. So we have a request. So we need to figure out the timing. You and I can text of a session handling competition nerves as a follow up of
Mm,
this session. So we're gonna wait because right now is preseason. But Allie and I will talk. And we'll find a good time to do a follow up on this where we talk about what are some of those tools you can use during season to help your athletes stay calm, get focused, and also tap into that adrenaline and kind of try to stay in that steady, safe state where they can perform their best.
yes,
And just another
yes.
routine. They can do just another routine.
We'll want to do it pretty early because there's stuff already that especially coaches should be doing.
Yeah.
So we'll want to do it early. So you and I will talk.
We'll talk and we'll figure it out. All right. Everyone else says thank you. And I have to agree. Doc Allie, thank you so much. I love having you here. It's so
Always a
awesome.
pleasure.
So for those of you that don't follow me, I am at Perfect 10 PT, the number 10, on Instagram. And my website is perfect number 10pt.com. You can also get my free training for those of you that have not had it. You're welcome to join my free training from today's session only. Let's see if I can type it in. It is perfect, the number 10 ptacademy.com. If you go there, you can get your free training from me. And you can also join our family, the Perfect 10 family, and which also almost always includes Doc Alley at some point because we love Doc Alley. Yeah, so get your free training today, perfect10ptacademy.com. Check out Allie on her in social media platforms and her programs that she has coming up. And everybody is definitely taking home just another routine. It's a smart way thinking about competition day. Sounds better than, oh yeah, since we're in the universe. For sure. All right, you guys, thank you guys so much for having Doc Allie. Allie, again, thank you for joining. We love you as always. Oh, unmute.
I just said thank you. My pleasure.
Well, thanks for joining.
Mhm.
Everybody, we have another one of these next week, and we're going to talk about how to find a straight body handstand. And we're going to be using a bunch of bands and some cool, really easy drills to do to get those shoulders open and hips open and find that nice straight body. Sorry, Sean, we had a little divergence, so we'll do it this next week. He says, great to see you, Doc Allie. All right,
All
everyone,
right.
have a great rest of your week. What was our take-home word, Allie? It was positive. And can you read the back of the card
Oh,
one more time? Oh, you put it down though. Sorry.
oh yeah, yeah. Our word of the day is
Positive.
positive, and it is. I'll read it for us, not for
Yeah, this
athletes.
is for
Look at
us.
everything that happens today as something that is making you a better coach, mom, dad, person. See the opportunity in all your adversity.
And on that, we'll close it out. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Allie. Bye, everyone. Have a great week. Look for the